He slapped my daughter, right in front of everyone, a grown man hitting a 6-year-old child. And when I screamed in shock, my parents didn't flinch. In fact, they laughed, as if it was some sort of joke, as if her tears meant nothing. But what they didn't know was that everything was being recorded. The microphone from the family documentary picked it all up. Every sound, every word, every lie that followed. Before I tell you the full story of how I got my revenge and made sure they'd never laugh at my child's pain again, do me a favor. Like this video, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more true revenge stories, just like this one. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. My name is Brooke. I'm 29 years old. And this isn't just a story about family betrayal. It's a story about what happens when you mess with the wrong mother. I spent my life working hard, keeping quiet, and putting my family first. But all that changed the moment my daughter Chloe was slapped. It all started with an invitation. We hadn't had a full family reunion in nearly 6 years, and to be honest, I wasn't sure I even wanted to go. But my mom kept calling, saying it was important that we all be under one roof again. She even promised that this time there would be no drama, no fights, no tension. Of course, that was a lie. The reunion was being held at my parents' vacation home in a quiet little neighborhood called Maple Creek Heights. It wasn't fancy, just one of those places where the trees were always too tall, and the neighbors acted like they were better than everyone else. But for some reason, my parents loved it. Chloe was excited. She had picked out a bright pink dress, packed her favorite doll, and practiced the little song she wanted to sing for her grandpa and grandma. "It's a surprise," she kept whispering with a giggle, "but I want everyone to hear it." We arrived on Friday afternoon. The air smelled like cut grass and burned barbecue. A few of my cousins were already there, setting up folding chairs and arguing over who would sleep where. My older brother, Dennis, hadn't shown up yet, which gave me just enough time to enjoy some peace. Dennis and I had never been close. He was the golden child, always praised, always defended, no matter how cruel or careless he was. Growing up, he pushed me around, insulted me, and stole from me. And my parents, they always brushed it off. "He's just being a boy," they'd say. But now Dennis was 34, married with 2 boys of his own, and somehow still the same person. When he finally arrived that night, he made a scene, pulling up in a new truck, honking like a clown, making everyone come out and greet him. His wife, Clarissa, followed behind with her nose in the air, dragging their kids along like luggage. Chloe clung to me as Dennis swaggered over. "Well, well, well," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "If it isn't the family ghost." Brooke actually showed up. I ignored him. I wasn't here for him. That night, we had a big dinner. Everyone brought something. Chloe helped me bake chocolate cupcakes, and she handed them out with such pride. "I made these with Mommy," she kept telling everyone. Dennis didn't even say thank you. He took one, bit into it, and made a fake, gagging noise. "Tastes like cardboard," he said, tossing the rest in the trash. Chloe saw it. I could tell by the way her smile disappeared. But she didn't cry. She just came back to me and whispered, "He's not nice, Mommy." "No," I said. "He's not." The next morning, things seemed better. The weather was sunny, and my uncle had brought out an old camcorder. "We should make a little family documentary," he said. "Just something to look back on." He clipped a tiny microphone to his shirt, and we all took turns standing in front of the camera, sharing memories. It actually felt okay. For a moment, I thought maybe this reunion wouldn't be so bad, until the singing started. It was just after lunch. The adults were chatting on the porch, and the kids were playing in the yard. Chloe stood up on the picnic table, clapping her hands, and began singing the song she had practiced. It was a sweet, silly song about cupcakes and rainbows and how much she loved her family. Her little voice rang out, full of joy, completely innocent. Some of the relatives smiled and clapped along, but Dennis didn't. He looked up from his beer, annoyed. "Hey," he barked, "can we get a moment of peace?" Chloe kept singing. She didn't understand. He stood up, walked over to the table. "Dennis, stop. I said, but he ignored me. He reached her in 2 long strides. Then he slapped her. The sound echoed. Her body jolted. The entire yard went silent. I rushed forward, heart racing, scooping Chloe into my arms as she screamed in pain. Her cheek was red. My hands shook. "What is wrong with you?" I screamed. "She was being too loud," he said, as if that justified it. My parents? They laughed. My mother chuckled and said, "Maybe now she'll learn some manners." My father nodded. "Kids today are spoiled." I stood there frozen. No one else moved. No one else spoke. The sun kept shining. The camera was still recording. And the microphone clipped to my uncle's shirt had caught every word, every gasp, every insult. But they didn't know that. I carried Chloe into the house and locked the door behind us. She cried herself to sleep in my lap, and I cried right with her. I wanted to leave. I wanted to take her home and never come back. But something inside me changed that day. They wanted to laugh at her pain. They wanted to protect a bully like Dennis. Fine. They thought this reunion would bring us closer. It would, just not in the way they expected. The next day, I woke up early and made coffee. My hand still trembled, but my mind was clear. I had a plan. But first, I needed to act like everything was normal. As if nothing happened, I stepped outside with Chloe, who clung tightly to my hand. Dennis was back in his usual spot, sipping from a red Solo cup. Clarissa sat next to him, scrolling through her phone. "Morning," I said quietly. They'd barely acknowledged me. But my uncle, who still wore the microphone for fun, smiled and waved. "Want to do another round of interviews today?" he asked. "Yes," I said. And that's when I knew I had what I needed. I had the beginning of their downfall. I just had to be patient. That evening, I went back inside to find Chloe lying on the couch, watching cartoons. She smiled up at me, stronger than before. "Are we going to sing again?" she asked. "Soon," said, "but not yet." Then the front door slammed. It was Dennis. He stormed in, face red, eyes locked on me. "You think you're slick?" he growled. "You've been looking at me funny all day. You got something to say, Brooke?" I stood up. I didn't flinch, and I looked him right in the eyes. But before I could speak, he raised his hand again, and this time, he wasn't going for my daughter. He was coming for me. Dennis lunged across the living room like a man possessed, his hand raised high. Chloe screamed and ducked behind the couch. My heart stopped, but I didn't move. I didn't blink. I stood firm, staring into the eyes of the man who thought he could control everything with fear. That's when Uncle Ron stepped in. Ron wasn't the biggest guy, but he was quick. He grabbed Dennis by the arm mid-swing, twisting it behind his back in one smooth motion. "Are you out of your mind?" he barked. "You just hit a kid yesterday, and now you're trying to hit your sister?" Dennis thrashed like a wild animal, but Ron didn't let go. "Let me go, old man." Dennis snarled, but Ron held tight. "Not until you calm the hell down." Clarissa stood in the doorway, frozen, clutching her phone, but not dialing. Just watching. That was all she ever did. Watch and side with her husband. I pulled Chloe into my arms again. She was shaking. "Take your kid and leave," Dennis spat as Ron finally let him go. "This is my family's house. You don't belong here." My fists clenched, but I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I smiled, because I knew something he didn't. That night, I helped Chloe brush her teeth and tucked her into the guest room bed, gently brushing her hair from her face. "Are we leaving tomorrow?" she whispered. "Not yet," I said. "We still have something important to do." She gave me a tired little nod. I kissed her forehead and turned off the lights. Downstairs, my parents acted like nothing had happened. My mom was making potato salad. My dad was drinking a cold beer, watching the football game like it was any other day. I sat in the kitchen, staring at them both, waiting. "Don't look at us like that," my mom muttered finally. "You're the one who raised a monster," I said calmly. "And you're the one who laughed when he hurt my child." "She was being disrespectful," my dad grumbled. screaming in front of adults like we're at a circus. She was singing, I snapped. A 6-year-old singing. My mom rolled her eyes. You always overreact. I stood up slowly and walked out. The next morning, I got up early. Ron was already in the driveway, tinkering with his old camera. He looked up and smiled when he saw me. I need your help, I said. He nodded. I figured. We took a walk down the road while Chloe stayed inside playing with my cousin's daughter. I told Ron everything. How Dennis hit Chloe, how my parents defended it, and how this wasn't the first time Dennis had gotten away with something cruel. Ron scratched his beard. I had a feeling. That boy's always been full of himself. I pointed to the mic, still clipped to his shirt. You were wearing that when it happened, right? He looked down, still recording. I smiled. Good. That evening, Ron made a big show about wanting to record more interviews. He said he wanted to finish the documentary and get everyone's memories on camera. I volunteered to go last. One by one, family members stood in front of the camcorder and shared stories about Grandma's old cooking, fishing trips, and birthday parties. Laughter filled the air until it was my turn. I stood on the back porch, the camera pointed at me. Everyone gathered around. The sun was starting to set, casting a warm, golden glow. I took a deep breath. My favorite family memory? I began. That's a hard one. I guess it used to be Christmas at my parents' house. Until it wasn't. Dennis snorted. I kept going, but I guess what I'll really remember is this weekend. People shifted in their seats. Because this weekend I learned exactly who you all are. Cut the crap, Dennis called out. You're always trying to play victim. I looked directly into the lens. This weekend, my brother slapped my 6-year-old daughter in front of everyone, and my parents laughed. They called her loud, spoiled, disrespectful. A hush fell over the porch. And what none of you knew, I continued, was that Ron's microphone picked up every sound, every word. It's all recorded. And guess what? Ron gave a small nod. I've already uploaded a copy to a cloud folder, just in case. Dennis stood up. You're bluffing. I stepped down from the porch and faced him. Am I? You wouldn't do that to your own family. I didn't break eye contact. You already did. He stormed toward me again, red-faced and trembling with anger. But this time my cousin stepped in. 2 of them, big guys, former high school football players. They blocked Dennis before he could reach me. Back off, man, one of them warned. Seriously. Dennis looked around, and for the first time he realized something had changed. The room wasn't on his side anymore. No one was laughing now. He turned to our mom. Aren't you going to say something? She looked stunned, like someone had finally slapped her awake. I didn't know she had it recorded, she muttered. You still laughed, I said. You still defended him. And when I publish this, when the world hears what happened, no one will care that you didn't mean it. Clarissa grabbed Dennis's arm. We should leave. Dennis pulled away, but she stood firm. Dennis, I said we should leave. I watched them walk away, Dennis muttering under his breath, Clarissa dragging their kids behind her. My parents stood frozen, for once speechless. But I wasn't done. That night, I went into the guest room where Chloe was curled up with her doll. Guess what? I whispered. She turned over slowly. What? Tomorrow we're going to sing again. But this time it'll be your stage. And your song. And no one will ever hurt you for it again. She smiled. Just a little. The next morning I had a plan. I printed something on the old family printer and handed it out to everyone. It was an invitation to Chloe's backyard concert, 3 p.m. Sunday. People were confused. Some were nervous, but no one said no. That afternoon, we set up a little stage made from crates and blankets. Chloe wore her pink dress again. Her cheek had started to heal, but the mark was still there. She stepped onto the stage. She began to sing, and that's when the gate creaked open. Dennis walked in. He wasn't alone. He had someone with him, a lawyer, and a printed document in his hand. He was grinning. "I hope you're ready," he said, waving the paper, "because you just messed with the wrong person. You're about to get sued." I stared at him. Chloe kept singing, and deep inside I smiled, because I had just started. Dennis stood at the edge of the yard with that smug little smirk on his face, waving the papers like they were a winning lottery ticket. "Defamation," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Recording people without their permission. Spreading lies about a father. That's slander, Brooke." The lawyer beside him looked uncomfortable. Probably realized this wasn't the professional setting he'd hoped for. Chloe's sweet voice carried over the backyard, high and soft, her words barely rising above the tension hanging in the air. I didn't say anything. Not at first. I just let him keep talking. Let the neighbors peek over their fences. Let the rest of the family glance from one person to another, unsure what to do. "You better take that video down," Dennis warned, "or we'll sue you for every dollar you've got." I smiled, slowly. "You think I'm scared?" I said, stepping forward. "You slapped a child in front of a dozen witnesses on camera with a microphone recording. If you want to take this to court, go right ahead." He took a step toward me. "You think anyone's going to believe your twisted little version of what happened?" "I don't need them to believe anything," I said. "I have proof. I don't need your permission to record something in a public setting where everyone can hear. That's legal here. And if you think dragging me to court is going to silence me, then you really don't know me." Dennis's smile faded just a little. I turned toward his lawyer. "You representing him in court for this?" The man opened his mouth, then closed it again. He cleared his throat. "I was just asked to draft a cease and desist letter. That's all." "Good," said. "Then maybe you should leave before you're part of the documentary, too." Chloe hit her final note, her little arms wide open like a bird in flight. The crowd clapped, softly at first, then louder. A few aunts wiped away tears. Even Ron was clapping. My parents stayed silent, their faces unreadable. Dennis turned to walk out, fuming. Clarissa didn't follow this time. That night, things were quiet. Dinner was awkward. Nobody said much. Chloe got 2 extra scoops of ice cream. My cousin Becky whispered that she was proud of me, and that's when my mom stood up and cleared her throat. "I think we need to talk," she said. The table froze. My father lowered his fork. "Now." "Yes," she said, looking at me. "Brooke? I'm sorry." I looked up slowly. "For what?" For laughing. For not stopping him. For saying what I said. Silence. The words were clumsy, forced, but they were there. "You've always taken his side," I said. "I know." I waited for more. She sighed. "He's always had a temper, even as a boy. Your father and we didn't handle it the way we should have." I didn't let her off the hook. "You defended him after he hit a 6-year-old." She looked down. "I know." Chloe was coloring quietly beside me, humming to herself. "I don't care if you're sorry now," I said calmly. "You don't get to erase what you did, or what you didn't do." "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said. "Good," I said, "because I won't. Not yet." She sat down again. The table stayed quiet. After dinner, Chloe and I went upstairs to pack our bags. I didn't say anything. I was still shaking inside, even though I looked calm. I wasn't leaving because I was scared. I was leaving because my part of the reunion was over. But Chloe's song? That was just the beginning. The next morning, before we left, Ron handed me a flash drive. "I edited everything last night," he said. "The footage, the audio. It's clean. The moment he slapped her, the sound of your parents laughing, your statement on the porch, all of it." I took the drive. My hand shook a little as I held it. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked. I looked over at Chloe, who was strapping her backpack into the car seat. "Yes," I said. "I'm sure." We drove home in silence for a while. just the hum of the tires on the road and Chloe quietly singing to herself in the back seat. I didn't interrupt her this time. I just listened. When we got home, I tucked her in bed, kissed her forehead, and went straight to my laptop. I uploaded the video, titled it, "My brother slapped my daughter at our family reunion and my parents laughed." I didn't add music. I didn't edit out the quiet parts. I wanted people to hear it exactly as it happened. Raw, real. Then I posted it. Within the first hour, it had 300 views. By the next morning, 15,000. And it wasn't just views. The comments poured in. Strangers from all over the country. Mothers, fathers, teachers, saying how furious they were. How brave Chloe was. How disgusting my family sounded. Some even offered to send Chloe gifts. One woman emailed me saying she was a family counselor and offered free sessions if we ever needed support. And then the news started calling. Local reporters, online blogs, even a major talk show producer reached out, asking if I'd be willing to appear. I didn't say yes. Not yet. I wasn't done watching my family squirm. That afternoon, I received a group text from my dad. It read, "Take the video down. Now, you've embarrassed this family enough." I stared at the message. Then I texted back, "You slapped your own legacy in the face when you laughed at a crying child. I'm just holding up the mirror." He didn't respond. The next blow came quickly. Dennis's boss saw the video. Someone in the comments had recognized him and forwarded it to his workplace. Turns out, Dennis worked in a school district. He wasn't a teacher, but he managed support staff and was around kids every day. Until that week. Because after the video, he got suspended. Pending investigation. I didn't celebrate. Not yet. But I did smile. Then I got a call. It was my dad. He never called. Ever. I let it ring 4 times before I answered. His voice was flat. "You need to fix this." "No," I said. "This could destroy him." He destroyed himself. He was silent for a beat. "You'll tear this family apart." I let out a bitter laugh. "That happened the second you laughed when your granddaughter cried." Then I hung up. Later that evening, Clarissa showed up at my house. Alone. I opened the door slowly. She looked tired. Her eyes puffy like she hadn't slept in days. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. I didn't let her in. I stepped outside, folding my arms. "Dennis is falling apart," she whispered. "He's angry, but not at you. At himself. He knows he messed up." "Then he can say it himself," I said. "He won't," she said. "He's Dennis. That's the problem." "I'm thinking about leaving him," she said, tears starting to fall. Not because of the video. Because I finally saw it, too. The way he looks at people. Like he owns the air around him. The way he treated you. Chloe. Me. I didn't hug her. I didn't cry with her. I just said, then maybe this was the wake-up call we all needed. She nodded and turned to leave. I watched her walk down the steps in silence. Inside, Chloe was asleep on the couch with her doll in her arms. I stood there in the doorway, knowing the storm wasn't over. There was one more piece to fall, because the school board hadn't made their final decision yet, and I had something they hadn't seen. A new message in my inbox, from a woman I didn't recognize. Subject line, "You don't know me, but I know your brother, and I have a story to tell." I stared at the email on my screen, the words pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Subject, "You don't know me, but I know your brother, and I have a story to tell." Underneath it, a single line of preview text. He did the same thing to my son 2 years ago. My throat dried instantly. I clicked. The message was short, direct, and absolutely gut-wrenching. "Hi, Brooke. You don't know me, but I came across your video when a friend sent it to me. I had to reach out. 2 years ago, Dennis was working with my son's after-school program. My son was 9. He came home one day with a red mark across his face. He said Mr. Dennis slapped him for not staying in line. I filed a report with the district, but nothing came of it. No video, no proof. Just my word against his. But now that I've seen your footage, I'm ready to speak up again. If you're willing to talk, I'm here. Tanya M. I sat there frozen, the email lighting up my screen like it was burning right through me. He had done it before, and he had gotten away with it, because no one listened. No one cared. Or worse, they protected him. I couldn't reply fast enough. I thanked her, asked for a phone call, told her she wasn't alone. And for the first time since that horrible day at the reunion, I felt like I wasn't alone either. That evening, Tanya and I talked for almost an hour. She told me everything. How her son had nightmares for weeks. How Dennis denied everything. How the school said there was insufficient evidence and let him keep working. She cried. I cried too. And then I asked her something big. Would you be willing to speak with the school board again? This time with me. There was a pause on the line. Then, yes. The next morning, I sent the board everything. Tanya's statement, the full video, and a timeline of events. I didn't just want Dennis suspended. I wanted him gone. For good. That same day, Chloe and I went to a local community park. I needed air. She needed space. She ran toward the swings, and I sat on a nearby bench, still feeling the weight of it all pressing on my chest. And then my phone rang again. Blocked number. I answered. Brooke. It was a man's voice. Yes. This is Mr. Layton, head of the disciplinary committee with the district. I received your documents, and I'll be honest, this is serious. Very serious. I didn't speak. I can't give you details, he said, but we've moved to an expedited review process. There will be a hearing in 3 days. Will I be allowed to speak? He paused. You'll be invited, yes, as will Miss Tanya and others involved. But just a heads up, Dennis has already been notified. He's hired legal counsel. Of course he had. 3 days later, I stood outside a wide gray building, holding Chloe's hand. Tanya walked up beside us. We went inside together. The hearing was formal, too formal for what it was. Tables, suits, a long desk with board members, sitting like judges. Dennis sat across the room with his lawyer. He didn't look at me once, but I looked at him. I wanted him to feel it. They played the video. I watched the moment he slapped my daughter again on a screen bigger than life. I still winced when I heard Chloe's cry, even though I'd heard it 100 times in my memory. Then Tanya stood and told her story, and this time there were gasps, murmurs, and someone, one of the assistant board members, actually stood up and walked out for a moment to compose herself. Dennis's lawyer tried to spin it, said he had a firm teaching style, that context was everything, that the video was one-sided. But nothing they said could scrub that sound from the room. The slap, the cry, the laugh. The room went silent after we were dismissed. They told us to wait in the hallway while they deliberated. Chloe sat between us, munching goldfish crackers and kicking her feet off the edge of the chair. Then the door opened. Miss Brooke, the chairwoman said. We stood. The board has made its decision. I swallowed hard. We find that Mr. Dennis's actions constitute a clear violation of conduct standards. Effective immediately, his contract is terminated. I didn't smile. I didn't jump or cheer. I just whispered, thank you. Because this wasn't joy. This was justice. When we got back home, I let Chloe stay up past her bedtime. We curled up on the couch and watched one of her favorite movies. She giggled and recited every line. Her cheek had healed now, but I could still see it. Every time I closed my eyes. I posted a new video later that week. A quiet one. I didn't shout. I didn't drag anyone. I just told the truth. Told the world that Dennis was officially removed from his job. That another child had come forward. That this time people listened. The views came fast. So did more emails. More mothers. More stories. Some who didn't know Dennis at all, but had their own monsters. Their own battles. They thanked me for speaking up. for not staying quiet, for fighting back when it would have been easier to run. And just when I thought things might finally settle, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find my mother standing there, tired, pale, alone. She held a letter in her hand. "I didn't come to fight," she said. "I just wanted to give you this." I took it. She turned and walked away. Inside, I unfolded the paper. It was handwritten. From my father, Brooke. "I don't know what to say anymore. You've made your point. But in doing so, you've embarrassed this family. We can't go anywhere without people staring. Your mother cries at church. I've lost friends. And for what? A video. You've torn this family apart. Hope you're proud. Dad." I stood there, the letter shaking in my hands. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because after everything they did, after the slap, the laughter, the threats, he still didn't get it. He thought I ruined the family? No. He did that the moment he sided with a bully over a child. And what he didn't know, I wasn't finished yet, because there was still one more surprise waiting. Something even Dennis didn't see coming. Something I had found hidden in that flash drive Ron gave me. A 15-second clip. Low quality. Blurry. Recorded 2 years ago. Of Dennis cornering another child and saying something that would shake this family to its core. The moment I opened that final video file on the flash drive, I felt it in my gut. This wasn't just another clip. It was old, grainy, and the audio was muffled under wind noise. But it was clear enough. Crystal clear. Dennis stood in the corner of what looked like my parents' old garage at Maple Creek Heights. He was towering over a boy, probably 9 or 10, with the same aggressive posture I knew too well. "You tell anyone what happened, and I'll make sure no one believes you," Dennis said. "You hear me?" The boy nodded fast, terrified. "Say it," Dennis growled. "I won't tell," the boy said. Then the video ended. 15 seconds. That's all it took to turn my blood to ice. I stared at the screen, my hands trembling on the laptop. It wasn't Chloe. It wasn't Tanya's son. It was someone else. A different child. One we hadn't even known about. A new victim. That clip had been buried in the raw footage. Ron hadn't even seen it. He told me he'd dumped everything onto the flash drive without scrubbing through the small, older files. I called him the moment I saw it. He came over with a grim look on his face. "That's from the last reunion," he said. "The one 6 years ago. We did a family memories montage. That part must have recorded by accident. I guess I had left the camcorder running." We sat in silence for a long minute. "Do you recognize the boy?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "That's Aiden, your cousin Laura's son." Laura, my quiet, polite cousin who lived upstate and barely spoke at the reunions. Her son, Aiden, had always been a shy kid. Sweet, soft-spoken. Chloe liked him. And now everything made sense. Why Laura left the reunion early that year. Why she stopped coming to family gatherings. Why she barely returned calls. I didn't waste time. I found Laura's number and called her. She answered on the third ring, hesitant. "Brooke," she asked. "Laura, I'm so sorry to call out of the blue," I said, heart pounding. "But I found something. It's about Aiden." I could hear her breathing shift. "What do you mean?" "I found a video. From 6 years ago. Dennis, he cornered Aiden in the garage. Threatened him. It's on tape." There was a long, aching pause. Then a quiet voice. I knew it. My heart dropped. "I always knew something happened," she whispered. "He came home from that reunion and wouldn't speak for days. Said he didn't want to ever go back. He used to love that garage, Brooke. And then suddenly he was terrified of it." "I believe you," I said. "And now I can prove it." She started crying softly. "No one believed me back then. Not even my own mother." "They will now," I said. "Do you want to come forward?" "You don't have to, but I won't let him bury this." She took a shaky breath. "Yes, I want to. I want them to know what he did to my child." We met 2 days later at a coffee shop halfway between our towns. Laura looked older than I remembered, more tired, more fragile. But when I showed her the video, she stiffened with resolve. "That's my son," she said, "and that's the man who scared him into silence." Together, we made a plan. The next morning, I sent the clip and Laura's statement to the school board and the district office. Then I sent it to someone else, a local journalist named Cassidy, who had reached out weeks ago. She'd written a piece about abuse in youth programs and was dying to dig deeper. When I told her I had new evidence and a second victim, she was at my door the next day. The story published within 48 hours. The headline was brutal. "District employee threatened children. New video confirms pattern of abuse." The article exploded online. The first video had gone viral. This one set the internet on fire. It was everywhere: news sites, social media, parenting blogs. Every single one of them condemning Dennis, asking how someone like him stayed employed so long. Why no one stepped in sooner. Dennis tried to fight back. He posted on his Facebook, claiming he was being framed by bitter relatives. He said we were clout chasers and that the video was edited out of context. But no one believed him anymore, because now there were 3 children, 3 different times, and 3 different mothers telling the same story. Then came the biggest blow of all. He was blacklisted. The entire school district issued a formal ban. Dennis would never work with children again. Not in that town, not in the neighboring counties. His record was red-flagged. But that wasn't all. Laura filed a restraining order. Tanya did too. And I filed a civil lawsuit. Not for the money. I didn't care about that. I wanted a permanent court ruling that would follow Dennis for the rest of his life. A record he couldn't scrub. He tried to countersue, tried to claim emotional distress, loss of reputation, defamation, but it didn't work, because I had proof. I had witnesses. And for the first time in his life, Dennis was being held accountable. And still, my parents remained silent. No phone call, no apology, no acknowledgement, until one morning, I walked to my mailbox and found a letter. No return address. Inside was a short, typed message. "We're selling the house at Maple Creek Heights. We won't be hosting reunions anymore. Don't contact us again. Mom and Dad." That was it. After everything, no remorse, no compassion, no responsibility. Just a goodbye, wrapped in shame. I stared at the letter for a full minute. Then I folded it up and dropped it straight into the trash, because I didn't need their approval anymore. I had my daughter. I had the truth. And now I had the power to protect others. That evening, Chloe crawled into my lap and asked, "Mommy, are the bad people gone now?" I kissed her forehead. "Some of them," I said. "But if more show up, we'll handle them. Like we always do. Together." She nodded and leaned into me. I thought the storm was finally over, until I got a call the next morning. Not from the school. Not from Laura. Not from Tanya. But from the police. A detective. "Brooke, this is Detective Harlan with the county office," he said. "I'm calling regarding your brother." "What about him?" I asked, heart suddenly pounding again. "There's been a new report," he said. "A very serious one." "What kind of report?" The line went quiet for a moment. Then he said it. "We believe your brother may have been involved in something much bigger than what's been reported so far. We'd like you to come in." And just like that, the nightmare wasn't over. It had only just begun. I clutched the phone so tight it hurt. "What do you mean, something bigger?" I asked the detective. My voice came out thin and brittle, like a wire about to snap. Detective Harlan didn't answer right away. I could hear papers being shuffled on his end, maybe even the scratch of a pen. "We can't say much over the phone," he said finally, "but it involves a report made by a former coworker of your brother, someone who saw things and didn't speak up back then. But after your video went viral, she came forward." I leaned against the kitchen counter, legs suddenly weak. Chloe sat in the living room coloring, completely unaware her world was still teetering on the edge of another cliff. "Is this about what he did to those kids?" I asked. "It's related," the detective said, "but there might be more. Brooke, we're investigating potential grooming behavior that could go back several years. Possibly more children. Possibly even digital evidence. Devices. Online messages." My heart sank. "Are you saying—" He interrupted gently. "We're not charging him yet. We're just investigating. But we'd like to ask you some questions. About the past. Anything you remember. Anything unusual." I agreed to come in. After I hung up, I sat on the floor, stunned. The quiet hum of the refrigerator, the light tap of Chloe's crayons, and the faint breeze through the screen door felt like a cruel contrast to what I had just heard. This wasn't just about Chloe anymore. Not even about Aiden or Tanya's son. This was about something bigger, something darker, something far more dangerous. And Dennis, he had hidden it all behind family cookouts, stupid jokes, and fake smiles. I texted Laura and Tanya right away, letting them know. Tanya called instantly, panicked, but I told her the same thing I told myself. We would let the truth come out. We would stand together if it did. At the police station, I met Detective Harlan face to face. Mid-40s, bald kind eyes but firm jaw. He reminded me of someone who used to be a teacher before he saw too much to keep smiling. He asked me everything. Had I ever seen Dennis alone with children? Did he ever act inappropriately around Chloe? Did he ever have sudden mood swings? Or speak strangely when kids were around? I told him about the reunion, the slaps, the threats. I told him about how Dennis used to play games when we were kids, ones that made me uncomfortable, even if I didn't understand why back then. I told him how my parents always said he's just being protective, or he's just got a big personality, whenever he crossed the line. Detective Harlan nodded and took notes. "We're going to try to get a warrant," he said, "to check his devices, past emails, hard drives, everything." My stomach churned. "And if you find something—" "Then he'll face charges," he said. "Serious ones." Back at home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something in our family had been rotting for a long, long time, and now it was finally surfacing. I sat with Chloe and helped her cut out paper butterflies. She asked, "Is Uncle Dennis coming back?" I shook my head. "No, baby. He's not." "Good," she said, and went back to coloring. A few days later it happened. The search warrant was approved. Dennis's house was raided early one morning. Computers, phones, and external drives were taken. It made the news. The same news stations that had picked up the slap story now ran new headlines. School officials' home raided following abuse allegations. More accusers come forward after viral video exposes slap incident. I didn't feel happy. I felt sick, because I knew what this meant. If the police found anything, it wouldn't just be justice. It would be the end of whatever twisted version of our family still existed. And sure enough, the next blow came fast. My parents showed up, unannounced. They pulled into my driveway without calling. My dad stepped out first, stiff, face red. My mom followed, pale and shaking. I opened the front door, blocking it with my body. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "We need to talk," my mom said. Her voice was brittle like old glass. My father growled, "You need to stop this. Now." I blinked. "Excuse me." "They raided his home," he barked. "They're treating him like a criminal because of you. You're poisoning everyone. You ruined him." I laughed once, sharp and humorless. "He ruined himself." "He's your brother," my mom whispered. "How could you do this to him?" I looked at them both, and for the first time, I didn't feel like a daughter talking to parents. I felt like a wall standing in front of everything I needed to protect. "He hit my daughter," I said. "He threatened other kids. And now, you think I'm the problem." My dad stepped forward. "You don't know the damage you're doing." "No," I said coldly. "You don't know the damage you allowed all these years." Then I looked at my mom. "I hope one day you realize that your silence hurt more than his slap." I shut the door in their faces, and I didn't look back. That night, I got a call from Cassidy, the journalist. She said, "You might want to sit down for this." "What happened?" She hesitated. "They found something," she said, "on one of Dennis's external drives. Not just emails. Videos." My stomach twisted. "Of what?" "Kids," she said. "Kids from the programs. We don't know how many yet. But this is going to get much, much bigger." I sat on the floor of my kitchen, unable to breathe. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. The next day, the police confirmed what Cassidy said. Dennis was arrested. Not just for assault. Not just for intimidation. But for possession of illicit material involving minors. He was being held without bail. The charges were stacking. The evidence overwhelming. And suddenly, the people who had once laughed with him at reunions were deleting pictures, erasing memories, cutting ties. But not me. I kept every video, every file, every message, because I wanted the world to know exactly who he was. And more importantly, I wanted them to know who my daughter was. A survivor, a light, a song in a storm. That night, as I tucked Chloe into bed, she looked up at me and whispered, "Did we win?" I smiled softly. "We're winning," I said, "and we're not done yet." But I didn't tell her about the new email that came in an hour later. The one that said, "I worked with Dennis 5 years ago. I know about the basement. I didn't speak up before, but I will now." The email sat in my inbox like a landmine. "I worked with Dennis 5 years ago. I know about the basement. I didn't speak up before, but I will now." I read it 3 times, the words sinking in slower each time, until my breath felt caught in my throat. The sender was a man named Keith Wallace. I didn't recognize the name, but he said he used to work maintenance at a youth center Dennis managed part-time before his full-time school job. According to Keith, there was a basement in that facility, off-limits to kids, rarely used, but Dennis kept a key. And according to him, Dennis sometimes took kids down there for talks. Keith admitted he ignored it then. "I thought he was just trying to keep kids out of trouble," the message said. "But now I can't stop thinking about it. I should have done something. I'm ready to help now. I can show you exactly where." The facility had closed down 3 years ago after losing its funding. It was scheduled for demolition, but still standing quiet and forgotten on the edge of town like a secret nobody wanted to deal with. I didn't respond to Keith right away. Instead, I called Detective Harlan again. He met me at the station late that afternoon. Keith was already there waiting. Nervous, pale, but determined. "I have a map," he said, unrolling an old blueprint on the desk. The basement door wasn't marked on public plans. It was sealed behind the east stairwell. Dennis had the only key. "Did you ever see him take anything down there?" the detective asked. Keith hesitated. "Once a camera case. I thought it was for class projects or something, but I never saw him bring it back up." I could feel my skin crawl. The detective nodded grimly and made the call. That night, the police got access to the site. They pried open the rusted old door behind the stairwell. Mold lined the walls, dust thick on the floor, but under an overturned shelf inside a plastic bin, they found hard drives, 7 of them, each labeled with black marker, D1, D2, D3, and so on. They were seized immediately, and the very next morning, it hit the news. Second location tied to Dennis investigation yields more devices. Former youth center basement linked to alleged abuser. It wasn't just local news anymore. National outlets picked it up. TV anchors were saying Dennis's name, talking about Chloe's video, about how one mother refusing to stay silent sparked an avalanche of truth. The story became a firestorm, and in the middle of it all, my daughter was safe, unbroken, smiling again. Her favorite song played from her bedroom speakers while she danced in pajamas too big for her, twirling like she had a secret. That weekend, I sat down and recorded one final video. It wasn't angry. It wasn't emotional. It was honest. To anyone who's followed our story from the start, I said, looking into the camera, thank you. Thank you for believing us. For sharing Chloe's voice when others tried to silence it. For giving other parents the strength to speak up. I paused. This didn't start as a movement. It started with a slap, a laugh, and a little girl who just wanted to sing. And now it's a warning. To every adult who thinks their status protects them. To every family that hides its monsters. We will not be quiet anymore. I posted the video. Within hours, it had over 2 million views. The comments were flooded with support. From parents, survivors, teachers, therapists. Some told their own stories. Others simply said, "We believe you." A few days later, I got a call from a nonprofit foundation that helps child abuse victims. They wanted to honor Chloe at an upcoming gala for her bravery, for speaking through fear, for sparking a chain reaction that saved others. I cried when I told her. She asked, "Will there be cupcakes?" I laughed and said, "All the cupcakes you want." At the event, Chloe wore her pink dress, a newer one brighter than before. She walked onto the stage shyly as the crowd stood and applauded. She didn't sing, but she smiled. And in that smile, I saw a piece of the world healed. After the gala, as we were walking back to the car, a woman in her 60s approached us. She held Chloe's hand and said, "I was you once, sweetheart." But no one believed me. "I'm so glad they believe you." Chloe nodded softly and squeezed her fingers. As we drove home, my phone buzzed. It was Ron. He had just uploaded the full documentary, the final cut, titled, "Sing Louder, How a Slap Was Heard Around the World." He included every raw moment, the slap, the silence, the laughter, and the storm that followed. It went viral within hours. But this time it wasn't just outrage. It was hope. People started emailing to say they'd created support groups. Teachers started requesting the documentary to show at staff trainings. Even a school district in another state contacted me, asking if I'd speak at their conference on child safety. Dennis? He was officially indicted. He would face a full trial in 3 months. The charges were enough to put him away for decades. He wouldn't see freedom again. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of the courtroom, because we weren't victims anymore. We were warriors, and we weren't alone. The day before his trial began, I stood outside the courthouse with Laura, Tanya, and 5 other parents who had come forward since the story broke. We didn't cry. We didn't tremble. We stood like a wall, unshakable. And I knew right then that my daughter's voice would never be silenced again. The story didn't end with a slap. It started there, but it ended with a song, and the whole world listening.